I'm John Cottingham, I'm Professor Emeritus of Philosophy at the University of Reading and currently Professor of Philosophy of Religion at Roehampton University, London. And I'm going to talk today about the problem of evil. Well, evil, as used by philosophers and theologians, is a fairly wide term, and it includes all the profoundly damaging aspects of our human existence, covering both moral evil, what arises from cruelty, violence, oppression, and so on, but also what perhaps wouldn't normally be called evil in modern English, natural or physical evil, so-called. That's to say, the harm and suffering arising from natural phenomena like diseases, earthquakes, tsunamis, and so on. It's obvious that our world contains an enormous amount of evil, of both those kinds I've just mentioned, moral and natural. But how can this be if there's a God of the kind that the great theistic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, believe in? Such a God would presumably know that evil occurs, since he's traditionally supposed to be omniscient, all-knowing. He must surely be able to prevent it, since he's regarded as all-powerful, omnipotent. And he must surely be willing to prevent it. He's taken to be supremely good and benevolent. So how come there is this evil and suffering? Well, the great atheist Scottish philosopher David Hume posed the problem, I think, very neatly in the 18th century, and he harked back to a much earlier formulation by the Greek philosopher Epicurus in the 4th century before Christ. According to Hume, and I'm quoting here from his Dialogues Concerning Natural Religion, written in the 1750s, not published till after his death. This is the quotation: "Epicurus' old questions are yet unanswered. Is God willing to prevent evil but not able? Then is he impotent?" That's to say, he lacks power. "Is he able but not willing? Then is he malevolent?" In other words, he can't be the benevolent God we're supposed to believe in. "Is he both able and willing? Whence then is evil?" Well, following this lead, some modern philosophers have claimed that the existence of evil logically demonstrates that God doesn't exist. In other words, they maintain that the existence of evil is logically incompatible with the existence of an omnipotent, benevolent, omniscient God. So on this view, the manifest existence of evil in our world gives us a watertight logical demonstration that that the traditional God of classical theism, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, cannot exist, given the evil we find. Now, a respondent, a defender of traditional theism, has various options. Consider, for example, God's omnipotence. Despite what you might at first think, being omnipotent, being all-powerful, doesn't mean being able to do absolutely anything and everything. Most theists, most philosophers of religion who defend theism would, I think, say that omnipotence doesn't include the ability to do what's logically impossible. I mean, for example, to create a round square. God isn't any less powerful because he can't make a round square, which is an impossible object. Or because he can't make it both rain and not rain at the same time in the same place. He can't do logically impossible things. So maybe God's almighty power doesn't need to include, can't include, in fact, stopping people wanting and doing evil things, given that he wants to create free agents. So he can't logically both create free agents and not have them sometimes want or do bad things. He can't logically make you free, genuinely free, and also at the same time stop you sometimes wanting or choosing the bad. And similar kinds of arguments have been offered in respect of God's benevolence. After all, creating free beings is a great good. Freedom is a good, and God would want that to happen. So it's logically impossible for him at the same time to ensure that people never make evil choices. Well, there's been a great deal written on other variations of the logical problem of evil. But I think it's fair to say that in recent years, interest in this so-called logical problem of evil has rather diminished. And this is, to some extent, largely, I think, as a result of a very influential article by the American philosopher of religion, Alvin, who gave a simple but, I think, generally thought to be decisive reason for thinking that the so-called logical problem of evil doesn't work. Basically, Plantinga's point was that it's always possible, for all we know, that God has some good and valid reason for allowing, permitting, or not eliminating the evil we find in the world. So there can never be a completely logically watertight disproof of God's existence based on the existence of evil. Now, I think opponents of theism, of religious belief of the traditional sort, may not be very impressed by this. They may say that it's simply not good enough to say that God might have some reason for all we know, some unknown reason for allowing evil, because the fact is that all the terrible evils in the world do exist, undoubtedly. And this surely suggests that the world, as it were, is not as we would expect it to be if there is a all-powerful, all-loving God who created it. Well, that point, I think, seems fair enough. But notice that the ground has now shifted somewhat away from the purely logical problem of evil to what's called the evidential problem. That's to say, granted it may be logically conceivable that there is a God, despite the evil we find, but the difficulty remains that the evidence, the extent of the evil and suffering found in the world, seems to make it pretty unlikely that there is a loving God of the traditional Christian or Judaic or Islamic type. The extent and degree of the evil we find, in other words, is evidence that seems to count strongly against there being a God. So I want to move on next from the logical problem of evil to the evidential problem.